Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Pitch webinar. My name is Christopher Goodfellow, and I'm one of the founders of the Pitch. We are a startup competition. We help founders that want to raise investment or are just starting out get the right network they need, get the support, meet mentors, and get involved with other founders. The program's running all the way until October this year, so there's still plenty of time to get your entry involved. And this year we have a specific stream for people running side hustles. So if you are doing a startup part-time outside of your full-time job, we've got a specific support available for you and a £5,000 grant as well to buy equipment. So do have a look at the pitch.uk and think about applying. Today I'm joined by the lovely Ryan from Borough 22 Donuts. And we're going to be talking a bit about how he made the leap from running a business part-time to going full-time, what that took in terms of the sort of financial side of things, both in terms of saving money in the business, but also in the personal life, how he balanced doing that and having young kids at the same time as well. And just to give you some sort of flavor and some ideas about how you might be able to get ready to make the leap, and hopefully a bit of inspiration too. There's obviously the chat window on the right there, so if you think of any questions while we're chatting, please drop them in there and I'll get to them. And yeah, without further ado, I'd love to introduce Ryan. So Ryan, if you want to pop yourself off mute, say hello to everybody and give us a little bit of an intro to your business, that'd be amazing.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris. So my name is Ryan Panchu. I'm the founder and CEO of Borough 22. It's a gluten-free vegan donut brand. We bake all our donuts in-house here in Southeast London, in the 22nd borough in London, which is where the name comes from. Royal Greenwich, and we've been doing that for the last 7.5 years now. And yeah, our donuts are available in Selfridges, London, Manchester and Birmingham in their food halls. We offer our services online as well. We do a low FODMAP range online as well for those of you with those allergies. And we supply at the moment around about 15 independent stores every Saturday in and around London.
Amazing. And take me back right to the beginning of the journey. Like, why did you start the business and what sort of gave you that initial light bulb moment?
Well, it's just through frustration, really. And I think a lot of businesses can probably say the same. So my family had multiple allergies. So my wife had multiple allergies. My kids were dairy intolerant at the time. And my wife was running a business, an online magazine, The London Mother, which is everything to do with parenting in London. So we get invited out. You know, it's quite a cool business to have, especially if you've got kids. We get invited out to review different venues, different restaurants, etc., etc. But anytime anything came up with food, it was very limited because of the allergies that they had. And it just used to really frustrate me. You know, my wife in particular, but the kids especially, just because it was a dairy allergy and it's quite easy to swap out dairy. So I just thought, well, let me try and do something. I couldn't find anything in the high street. I couldn't find anything in cafes that was any good. And it was a struggle to find anything that was multi-allergen free. So you had dairy-free stuff that had gluten, gluten-free stuff that had dairy in, but nothing that was multi-allergen free at the time. So I just thought, well, I'm gonna make it myself. How hard can it be? Famous last words.
Yeah, what about the? I was going to say, tell us about that initial recipe. Like, did you just start sort of messing around with it at home? Like, how did you figure out how to make them first of all?
Well, it was in increments. So the first objective was to make dairy free, which, as I say, was very, very easy. And it was like cupcake boom time at the time, sort of around 2011, 2012. So making cupcakes, too many for them to eat. And also my wife couldn't eat them as well. So that's when I started dabbling in gluten free, which is a completely different science altogether. So really trying to learn and understand about the different flours, what they do, their function in the final bake. The different additives like xanthan gum, psyllium husk, chia seeds that you could use to replicate gluten. And it was a lot of trial and error. There were a lot of rock hard and sand wet creations that were made. But we managed to get a brownie recipe first. And then I'd made these donuts, but I was so paranoid about sending them out because they had a short shelf life. You know, didn't last as long as the brownies, which is effectively fat and sugar. So they're preservatives in itself. And it was just thought nothing of it. But that's really the one that sort of took over because you couldn't get gluten-free vegan donuts. You couldn't get gluten-free donuts at the time, really. So that's the one that people sort of latched onto. That's the one that my family family members liked. And then that's how I knew that I was onto something, because everybody I'd spoke to said, we cannot get this. They were going crazy sort of over it.
And do you remember the first time you sold a donut?
Yeah, I do. So I remember who I sold it to. Her name was Shah. She lives locally here. So her mum was gluten-free and she had ordered for it. And I remember, man, my heart was beating. And I was just making one batch of donuts. So I think half was sugared, half was cinnamon. And I drove them round to her house. So she lives like maybe 15-minute drive from me, if that. And just really, really nervous, handing them over in this like greasy bag, paper bag. And just like really, really nervous, really grateful for them for buying it. They told me like their story, and that's invariably what happens. People will tell you their story, why they need these donuts, why they're so important to them. And then you go and then you wait, and it seems like hours, like you're waiting by the telephone for someone to call you. But then the message comes through and they absolutely love them. And it was just like, yes, like I want to do this more. I want that feeling more.
That's an amazing story. And then so what was going on at your sort of full-time job at the time? Like how much were you working? What were you doing? And how were you finding time to work on the donuts?
Yeah, so we just for childcare reasons, like my wife Madika had always worked part-time. And for childcare reasons, I started to work part-time as well. So at that time, I was working 4 days a week. So I had a day off, and that's what I'd use on my day off whilst childcare as well, whipping up all these recipes, testing these recipes. And then when the kids got a little bit older, then I was more established as it all started the business. I was then able to use that day to go and deliver them as well. And just working sort of nights, evenings, getting up early in the morning. And I think it's just that drive that you had just to get this product to people. The product that you believed in, that everybody seemed to like, and trying to get it to people as fresh as possible. That was sort of the driver that sort of made me work all these crazy hours. And it was difficult because, working a 4-day week, essentially you're working a 5-day week, but it's condensed into 4 days. So there's a lot of work you have to get done for my employer at the time. But I think it's, you had that added drive as well, in the fact that I didn't want anybody to come to me and say, why have you dropped the ball on this? Why hasn't this been done? Why haven't you done that? I didn't want that at all. I didn't want anybody to be able to say anything to me. So I made sure that I stayed on top of all of that, maybe put in more work than I should do, just so that I could be left alone on that day off to do what I wanted to do.
And are there any like anecdotes from those early days that can kind of bring a bit of color to that, like how you sort of were juggling everything and how crazy it got?
Yeah, I mean, when I say I used to deliver around central London, well, actually, one of the things I did was I did do deliveries around central London, and it was maybe like 8 orders, 10 orders, if that. But I used to take the whole day, and then I had this crazy idea: let me do this sort of donut rally. I think one of the groups was celiacs in Bristol, actually. So along the M4, there was like quite a few people. I did a poll on Facebook, and I got quite a few people from that area. It's like Chippenham, Reading, Swindon, Bristol, Bath. Just seemed to be like quite a few. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a donut rally. So you place your order. Let me know what you want. It would just be like a glazed donut, and I'll box it up, and I'll drive along the M4, bank holiday Sunday, and I'll deliver all these donuts along the M4. And it was an absolute nightmare because you're institutionalized. You're so used to doing, this is the day I've got for baking, so I'm going to do everything on that day. We're really looking at it now. We stretch everything out as much as possible. So got up, I think it was like 3. Everything took longer than it should do. And my first drop was supposed to be in Reading at 10. And I left my house here in Southeast London at 9:30. So it was ill-fated from the start. And then you're like calling people saying, I'll be there like half an hour. Really, it's an hour. You didn't account for traffic building up along the day. So I think I took my daughter with me, and I feel so bad over that because we didn't get home till like maybe after 1, maybe 2 in the morning back from London. It was an absolute nightmare. But, I still know customers from there. I've still got customers that order from me from that rally. And we talk about that from time to time. And it's just nice to have that relationship with them.
That's amazing. And when did you start to think that you could quit your day job? Like, what were the kind of signs that maybe that was a possibility?
Well, I have to be honest, I never thought about quitting. I would always say oh, you know, in the next 12 months, this is going well. But I'd say that every single month. So I never really thought, if I'm really honest, I never really thought I would get to a stage where I could quit. But what I was doing subconsciously was just stacking everything. So every bit of money that I made, I would stack it, buy little bits of equipment that would make my life easier. Things like a commercial oven, a commercial mixer. It's like these big sort of ticket items, just use like maybe the bonus at the end of the year that I got from my job, instead of spending it on the Mr. Porter sale, you know, going to like Nisbets or whatever and getting these bits of equipment. And I guess that was me sort of getting ready, wishing it would happen, but to take that leap, and it was a leap, I could never really say that I was ever really truly there, I would say, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Did you have any kind of plan, like a cash flow forecast or anything that said, you know, I know I can survive for a certain amount of months or anything like that?
Well, I did put something together. So I always wanted to have enough for 6 months, and I actually got made redundant. So that's what gave me that final push. Well, that and the confidence or the backing from my wife, who was self-employed. Like, she's the entrepreneur of the family, really. She's had that spirit from ever since I've known her. So she was working for herself, and she said, you know, we don't really need that much to survive on, like day to day, week to week. Actually, in terms of income, we don't need that much. And then it was another guy that I was working with at the time, because I was involved in property. It was a property management company. Our main client was HMRC. They were coming out of loads of buildings in different towns. So there was loads of buildings that were vacant. So we would do up the reception maybe, or a floor as a show suite to try and entice new clients. And one of the builders that I was working with, when I got made redundant, so he knew about the business. I used to ride to jobs with him and just chat with him, just to build a relationship with him so we could work better together. So he had picked me up from my house a couple of times to take me to jobs. So he'd seen all the equipment. He was really excited about it. I guess as an entrepreneur, he saw that entrepreneurial spirit, even though I didn't perhaps see it at the time. And he was like, no, you can come and work for me. Like, I want you to work for me. You can be a project manager, but you'll never get another opportunity like this. And it was that happening, and then taking their redundancy money, even though I had money stacked up as well, but using that redundancy money and not just blowing it all on, I'm going to buy a premises, and actually, no, stacking, topping up what I had to make 6 months worth of outgoings, and then taking the leap then to go and do it full time.
Amazing. And I think that frugality at home is so important as well. Like, when I started this business years and years ago, it was about just looking around at everything we had and kind of saying, like, yeah, what can we cut back just to minimize that risk a bit?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like it's crazy. I'd spend like easily spend £150 on a pair of trainers, like, for myself. But then if I came to spend £150 on packaging or boxes or spatulas, I was really, really like cautious. That money that was in the business, I was so precious about it. Like, I didn't really want to spend a penny, so nervous to spend a penny of it. But then it's good, because it's, you know, you've got that bankable income, or that money in the business that allows you that flexibility then.
And was there anything in the way that you were like selling or working with clients to kind of guarantee income, or was it literally kind of order to order?
So no, I'd had Selfridges. So Selfridges were a customer. I went into Selfridges in 2015, and I actually came out. I was in there from August 2015 to February 2016, and it was too much. Like, I was burning out. So I just said to them, I can't do it anymore. I was honest with them. I told them my situation from the start, and I think they really appreciated that. And they said, yeah, fine, go and sort yourselves out, get your house in order. We'd love to have you back. Just let us know when you're ready. And I was ready in October the same year and went back in there. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought now. Just what was the question again?
Just about that kind of getting ready, and like, if you did anything in the way that you sold stuff to make it kind of more dependable income.
Yeah, so I had Selfridges. I was selling to Selfridges at the time. It was February 2017, and it was order to order. I was starting to approach other shops as well. So I had a few shops that I was delivering to. sort of on the weekends, some local that were getting them in the middle of the week as well. And it just almost happened like coincidentally. So there was a shop that I was selling to, a famous coffee shop in London, Timber Yards. And they had 2 shops in central London, and they had 1 shop in Box Park in Shoreditch. And they were coming to the end of that lease just as I got made redundant. So they said to me, and it was always about the relationships I had with people. So always have a good relationship with the buyers at Selfridges, an amazing relationship. Every individual stockist that I sold to, amazing relationships with. And that for me is the business. It's not necessarily about the product, but it's about the person that you're dealing with and establishing a good relationship. So they came to me and said, look, we're coming out of Box Park. We've got 6 weeks left on our lease. We're taking all of our stuff out of there. We just want to sell coffee and your donuts. Whatever you make from your donuts, you take home. Whatever we make from our coffee, we keep, obviously. If we do something together, which we did, then we split that cost, which was amazing. Like, they didn't have to do that at all. But again, I think that's off the back of the relationship we had. And I wasn't selling in their stores at that time. So this was my introduction into their stores. But they loved the products. We got on well with the founders, Darren and Ruth. And it was amazing because that gave me, that just showed me the potential, like what I was sitting on basically. And where I could take Borough 22, which we've far exceeded now. But it just showed me that the demand was there. The product was great. People would support it. And I could actually generate an income off of this.
Amazing. We're going to take some questions from the audience in a minute, but it'd be good to know, like, just going back to that point. So the big push was getting made redundant. You kind of been teeing it up anyway by putting the savings away, being very careful, developing these relationships, which is brilliant. But do you remember what those kind of like first week or two was like when after you'd left your job, after you'd done your gardening leave, and then all of a sudden this is it, you're out there?
Yeah, it was a mixture of emotions. It was like, right, I've got a point to prove. Off the back of redundancy, it's never a nice feeling, but it was a point to prove, like, I'm going to really make this work. I'm going to really push this. I'm in control. Absolute fear, panic. You don't realize, or I didn't realize, how institutionalized you become working for someone, to the point where, like I said before, like I used to do everything on that one day that I had off. Because it's like, well, that's the day I've set aside for this job. So that's the day I'm going to do everything. And it can't work like that. Absolutely will burn out. So the fear of losing that safety net of a salary as well was just like, well, I've got to kind of say yes to everything. So I was saying yes to everyone and everything. I'd be here, I'd be there. I'd sponsor your event for the donuts. I'd sponsor this event. So it was nerve-wracking, but at the same time it was liberating, because when you got to the end of the month or the end of the week and the invoices came in, and then you saw what was happening to the business in terms of figures, in terms of cash flow, it was like, oh, it's working. It's like when you start riding a bike, that first push is always the hardest, but once you get 2 or 3 under your belt, you're flying. And it was like that, really. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Love it. That's a really nice metaphor there. We're gonna take some questions from the chat, from the people watching. So if you are streaming it, do tell us something about your business. Maybe ask Ryan something. But you mentioned burnout there, and Dan has asked. He says, really inspiring. How do you make sure that you avoid burnout generally? And I guess for you, particularly at that early stage we're chatting about, you not only had the business, but you had, I think you remember saying you had a young family as well. So yeah, like, how do you just manage your sort of well-being and avoid burnout more generally?
Yeah, I guess it's trying to be strategic with your time. Like, as I said, spacing everything out as well. So, I mean, I'm in a product-based business, so I produce a product at the end of the day, but there's so many stages that come before I get to producing that product. The actual baking, glazing of the donuts, which happens on a set day, there's so much more that happens before that. So spacing everything out, and then also just trying, and this is something that's only come later, really, but just trying to program in some time for yourself. Whether that is me spending half an hour on FIFA, or setting aside time so I can watch match of the day, the highlights, or going out and getting and seeing an osteopath because it's quite a physical job. Booking in a master, so just something for yourself, just to, well, it's almost like enjoying the fruits of your labor. So you work hard, so you're able to use some of that work, the money that's generated for yourself, to put some back into yourself. Because if you do burn out, or you're getting close to burnout, it's taking the fun out of the business, the fun out of what you do. And you start to work for the business as opposed to the business working for you. And that's something that I've had to do. And I thought maybe it would be like a one-time affair, but no, you have to multiple times. Like even this year, I've had to look back and say, right, no, Ryan, like you're doing too much. Just take it down a bit and step back a bit and, do something for yourself. I think that's key.
Yeah, I love that. And I guess, for everyone, self-care could mean a lot of different things, but, for you, it's FIFA and match of the day or whatever, osteopath. Other people, it could be walking, whatever, but it's more about that discipline, right? Like just sticking to that regularity of giving yourself the time. And another quick question from Dan as well, like, what about the sort of admin side of it? So finances, stuff like that, like what did you have to get in place? What tools did you use and stuff to make sure you had that side of the business covered?
Well, it was very basic to start off with, like income, outcome was on an Excel spreadsheet, like two individual. I've still got them actually, two individual Excel spreadsheets with loads of tabs for each month at the bottom. But I think that's one of the things that people are naive about. I certainly was naive about it. You think, I'll make this great product, I want to sell it, and that's all I'm going to do. But that's probably 30% of your time. The rest of the time is spent doing sales, marketing, on social media, doing your accounts. So I've got Sage business cloud accounting software. And that was one of the jobs that I used to hate doing because it was great. I was in all these places, but then I get to the end, like come in the door after I washed up all the trades, put them away. Now I've got to invoice everyone. And it's just like, to do that off an Excel spreadsheet is painful. It's so painful. So, and again, it's like I was saying before, like £120, £150 on a pair of trainers, but to get something that's actually going to help your business, to pay a subscription like every month, it's like, oh man, I've really, really thought about it, but it's a no-brainer. It takes so much of the headache away. I employ a bookkeeper as well. So she's able to give me sort of an overview and executive summary because accounts aren't my thing. And it just takes that part away. So that's a whole chunk, because I probably could do it, but it would take me maybe 4 times as long to do it as somebody who's an expert. And just other things, other areas of the business, like with social media, like my kids are hot on it. They know it inside out. So they do some of the social media for me. I just give it to them and they turn it around in no time. They cut, paste, put together, edit, bang, here you go, Dad, done. So that's taking that element away from it. And it just allows you then to concentrate on the thing that you love doing, the thing that's your passion. But if you can, like, look and see all the jobs that you hate doing, look and see if there's a tool that's viable, that's affordable, that you can use to take that off your hands, because then you're not robbing yourself of the joy of working for yourself, I guess.
Absolutely, and you're putting the time into where you're going to be most valuable, right? Bookkeeping for you, you're going to put less value into that than you are recipes, partnership development, all of that stuff. But on the finance side, though, I mean, you mentioned earlier you sort of, you have outsourced that, so that's great now. But like in the early days, like, was there any, like, how did you learn about that stuff? Like, I remember the first time I was trying to understand the difference between like profit and loss and cash flow and why they were two separate things, and just like wrapping my head around these new concepts. What was that like for you? Did you have anybody to kind of teach you that stuff? Did you like learn online, or like how did that process work?
Yeah, well, I started to look into it online, and it was very much, I guess my business is good in the fact that it was very much like the whole payment system was quite rapid, especially with the independents. Like you drop, they pay you, or even they order and pay, and then you drop. But to understand it, started off online, but then I just spoke to like friends. So I had friends who were accountants. So one who's an accountant for a FTSE 100 company, and then another one who was a bookkeeper for a startup, like quite a massive startup, a clothing startup. and just got advice from them. And then eventually it got to the stage where it's like, I don't really know what I'm doing. So can you help me? Can you do it for me? And I guess it's that whole human side of business, like establishing relationships with people. Okay, yeah, they were my friends, but they wanted to help me. They wanted to take that off my hand. They could see like the pain that I was going through. I didn't really understand it. And I said to the bookkeeper, just set me up as if we were like a FTSE 250 company. Like, what information would I want to know? What information would I need to know? And that's what she does. She does that for me every month. And again, with the software that we use, it's very easy to track. It's very easy to see. It's quite visual as well. So you sort of understand where you are. And it was getting that in at an early stage. I think it was the difference, really.
Amazing. And we've got another question here from somebody on YouTube. So I'm working on a new CIC around supporting people who are waiting for mental health courses, currently worried about money. And then the question is, do you feel it is better to fully focus on the business than work part-time on your business? So like, how do you balance that thinking of trying to do something like this that's really hard, really full on part-time versus, being able to do it all the time?
I'm an advocate for part-time, and I really think nobody's reinventing the wheel. Not really. When you strip everything back, they may make things better, but they're not reinventing the wheel. So there's always someone who is out there doing what you want to do or has done what you want to do. And it's just really about looking at what's in the marketplace. So from a part-time point of view, you can do that. You can research, you can see what other people have done. You can see how they built their business, how they've scaled up. And that's sort of the way I did it. I looked at who was in the marketplace, who was doing that. And then you just sort of, you put your own kind of twist on it, really, rather than, if it was up to me, I probably would have gotten myself in some really sticky situations. Like we joke at home and say my wife is the head and I'm the heart. She's very, very like strategic, and she's got that kind of good business head about her. But working or doing it part-time, you get to test the waters rather than jumping in and then you have to deal with everything as and when it comes. So I would always be an advocate for part-time. Test the waters out. See, you get to throw different things at it. You've got an income coming in as well, so you can use some of that to build your business up. And it forces you as well to think about your why. It's like, well, I'm working, I'm in a job, I'm getting income. Okay, I may not be happy, but I really want to do this. And it's that why that's going to drive your business long into the future. That's going to make you get out of bed every single day. So if you can do it while you're working full time and get it to a stage where you can take it full time, then I would always be an advocate for that.
Great. I think that's a really, really good point to end it on. So like a couple of really useful themes there. So the partnerships that you built and the way that you kind of learn from those people, whether it was a customer that you ended up building a relationship with and kind of changing the way you're selling, through to the advisors, the friends. Like I love how you surrounded yourself with those people. And then also that thing of, doing it part-time, like, is a good way to test. It's lower risk. Lots of us, when we're starting out, don't have the cash to make the leap. So, we can validate the idea, experiment a bit, do some test sales before we make that massive leap. So yeah, really appreciate the time there, Ryan. That was lovely to hear from you and a bit about your story. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Lovely. And finally, I'd just like to say a huge thanks to our sponsors, Sage. So they're the headline partner for the pitch this year. The pitch is completely free for people to take part, and we couldn't do it without amazing businesses like Sage backing us. As Ryan mentioned, they have software available to help with some of that admin stuff, to take away that burden, to allow you to concentrate on the business that you love. So do have a look at them. If you haven't entered the pitch already, we just opened applications last week. Just go to thepitch.uk, have a look at what we do and what we offer. We're open to all startups, but this year particularly we have a stream specifically for people running side hustles. So if you are working on your startup part-time, you can enter, tell us that you're doing that it is a part-time thing. We'll offer you bespoke support, and there is a £5,000 grant to buy equipment for the side hustle stream winner. So if you do make it that far, it might be the difference. Ryan talked there about buying equipment over time, using bonuses, stuff like that. Hopefully we can make a big difference to whoever wins that part of the competition. So again, thanks for tuning in today. The video will be available afterwards and we'll send it to you. So do share it with anyone else that you think can help, and good luck with your businesses. Thanks everyone.